Hi guys, welcome back to Gray Area. Today we have the wonderful Aki joining us to talk about all things music and more. Aki, thanks so much for having us. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Yay. Well, we'd love to start things out, kind of just talking about, a little bit about your background, your upbringing, and how that played a role in your passion for music. Like who introduced you to, your favorite genre, and like, was there anyone in particular, whether it was a family or a friend, that kind of like inspired you to want to pursue music?
Yeah, so my background definitely has a lot to do with my interest in music and the kind of music I play. I was born in Malaysia, and then I grew up in Australia and Singapore. And my parents are Indian, so I have like a lot of cultural influences from areas that are where music is just like really ingrained in the culture. So, like a lot of amazing electronic music artists come out of Australia, and it's like a very creative environment. So I was always taking classes from a really young age. I did a lot of Indian traditional dance and music as well. And then on top of that, I was very into like Latin and Caribbean music. And then when I moved out to New York for college, I actually joined like a Latin dance team, where we had like a diversity of genres. We would do performances, and I would do a lot of like the sound editing, music editing, finding like a lot of the music that we should be choreographing to. And then I started getting a bit more interested in like UK house, and house music in general. Especially I think it was around like 2013, 2014, when like a lot of deep house was really coming into the scene. And that kind of really formed the niche for me, that intersection of deep house with like foreign influences. And here we are today, and like that's why a lot of my sets are kind of like that culmination of a diverse range of music. Like I like things that have a little twist to it, like a little cultural influence in them. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so exciting. I think I think everyone's backgrounds and just like culture in general, plays a big, big role in like the music you end up loving as an adult. So we just wanted to hear a little bit about that. And then you said, so you lived in Australia before you moved to New York?
Yeah, I lived in Australia and Singapore,
Oh,
both which were like, huge influences, especially
yeah,
because Singapore is such an international environment. So
yeah,
you make
definitely.
friends with people from all around the world, and like they share their culture and influences. So yeah, that's why those
That's
two are big.
amazing. That's such like a big change
Yeah.
going from there to Australia and then coming to here. How would you
Yeah.
kind of describe like, like the musical aspect of like all those countries like separately? How would you describe that?
Yeah. What's interesting is what I've always loved about Australia is like so much of a fresh take on music comes out of there. A lot of the artists I know are just not afraid to like push the boundaries, and really just do it for the passion versus anything else. So I try every time I'm building my sets, like I really try to look at what's fresh coming out of Australia. And what's really interesting is my most recent release actually was on Club Sweat, which is a major Australian label. And it was really cool to kind of like do that full circle. Like I left Australia when I was young, and now I'm in New York, and now I'm releasing music on Club Sweat, and connecting with artists like back in Australia. So
That's like a full circle moment. Yeah.
exactly. And like I feel like what's really interesting is that a lot of what's coming out of Australia right now is like driving like a lot of what's like happening in other parts of the world in house music.
That's amazing.
So, there's just always like fresh finds and like fresh artists coming out of there. Singapore was really interesting growing up there during my teenage years. There was a huge burst in the club scene there with a lot of house music. There was a Ministry of Sound actually in Singapore, which was great because there's Ministry of Sounds, all around the world, and that attracted a lot of like European DJs, a lot of American DJs to
Yeah.
perform in Singapore. So that exposed me to a lot of house music from a young age as well. So I feel like, both those places are kind of, really trying to keep up with the world and, trying to progress quickly.
I love that. Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
have you gone back to either recently?
Because of the pandemic, I actually haven't been able to,
Yeah.
but otherwise, like going to Singapore and Australia over the summer or like during Christmas was like always pretty frequent for me before. But yeah, the pandemic has like been like preventing a lot, and
I
just
get that.
airfares are going higher.
Oh yeah. Well, hopefully you can make it back soon. Because
Yeah,
we're like after all of this, like it's gonna kind of boom again, like kind of like how it is here. But yeah,
yeah.
hopefully you get to go back soon.
Yeah, that'd be great. Maybe connect with some artists out there. I'm also really keen to go to New Zealand. I have some really good friends out there in like film and music. So, and that's like another amazing scene that's like, really not afraid to be on the cutting edge. So,
Yeah, I've heard actually a lot about New Zealand and just like Australia in general, because like one of my best friends, like he has family over there, and like when he went to visit, he was like the scene over there is so different than here. So definitely something I want to check out too.
yeah, I think it's just people that are just so not afraid to like
Oh yeah,
try things, and like the art is just so heavily, the art industry in general is just so heavily supported.
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So before, like you just mentioned, like you got into electronic music a little bit later on in life. So
Yeah.
before discovering your love for house music, did you ever aspire to pursue a career in like another art form or like another music genre? Or like was there any other type of career that you had in mind before deciding to pursue music full time?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I think my musical journey kind of started off more as like a vocalist. Like I would do a lot of lyric writing. I would produce on like garage band and produce
Same.
these like indie pop songs. So I kind of thought I was gonna go more in like that indie pop direction before, and like kind of be more of like a vocalist and like a lyricist. And then I started really getting into more DJing, and I realized like my favorite genres to play out were more like house music. But a lot of that was also driven by the vocals in house music, and like how much I love that integration of really meaningful vocals and passion with like soulful house music and like soulful beats. So it was less about the genre and more about like which path I was going to take in relation to the music industry. And then with production, what was great is that I was able to kind of bring both those talents together, like take vocals. I try really hard to use my own vocals where possible in my tracks, and like be super original and like kind of use it as my diary. Like I'm always taken back to that 14-year-old girl that would hide in her bathroom and like write lyrics. Um, and like I'm constantly just like writing lyrics over and over again, and I just have like so much that I need to use and like put in music. So that's kind of how everything came together for me.
Yeah, that's super exciting because it's kind of like there's very rare few artists out there that kind of have all three, the DJing, the producing, and like their own vocals. So that's something, that's definitely an advantage that you have. And yeah, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to keep producing and releasing the music for sure.
Exciting. And this is kind of more like a personal question, but if you had to pick between DJing or producing, like which one would you choose? Like which one do you feel a little bit more passionate about?
Oh, is this kind of like, if you chose one, you could like never do the other?
Yes, yes, exactly.
Oh man, that's such a hard one because I love production and I love like creating music, but if I can't connect with people and if like I don't have that opportunity to really kind of move people on the dance floor, then I would be at a loss. So I have to say like the DJing, like at least with the DJing, I can like, kind of do live mixes on the fly and still
Yeah,
be creative. So I feel like it's the best of both worlds.
that's what I was gonna say. Like, at
I'm
least
cheating there,
yeah,
but yeah.
at least with DJing, you can record the sets and you can still put them like on
Yeah.
SoundCloud or something, so it still counts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but it's just like one of the best things in the industry is being able to connect with people, whether it's like friends, new followers, like artists. Obviously, some of my best friends that I know right now are through the music industry and fellow artists I've collaborated with. So, that's so important as a DJ to continue doing that.
Definitely, yeah. Love that answer. And so my other question for you is, can you tell, like, was there a specific moment in time that you can remember where you were kind of like, okay, this is what I want to pursue full time? Like, when you look back on your life and like, all your decisions, like, was there a specific moment where that's when you were like, okay, no, I need to do this. Like, this is what I want to do.
It's so funny you say that because there actually really was Well, it was kind of like accumulation of moments, and then there was like that one big moment where it started with like playlists at home where I would like love like hosting people, and I would like get super OD about ensuring that it was a right playlist and mood. And there's something that I started to notice over time was that as I continuously always had like multiple groups of friends in the same room, the one thing that always brought people together was music, right? Like music is like the one thing that can get people comfortable, get people connecting, get people kind of like enjoying the same air. And I started downloading like renegade like DJ programs and like trying to like program them with iTunes and like, you know, making sure there was no blip in the music and doing these like YouTube to YouTube like live mixes. It was also dumb. And then finally, I remember one time I was with a friend downtown and we walked past Webster Hall, and I just kind of looked at there and I was like, oh man, you know, I really wish I could DJ. I really wish I could just DJ in a club sometime. And he turned and looked at me and was like, why don't you? And I was like, oh, it was just an aha moment where I was just like mulling over in my head and all he had to say was, why don't you? And I was like, oh, you're right. Like, why don't I? Like, why not me? And then I had a friend who had a friend of a friend was actually one of the co-founders of Scratch DJ Academy, and they were having like an open house. Ooh. So I immediately enrolled in a class there. I would do crazy things like skip out of work like early just to like go practice in the studio. Like I was just like so gung-ho about like doing this. And then I just, then I finished those courses and I started playing out, and then one thing just led to another.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think I'm a big believer in like, it's all about those little moments where you have those thoughts, and there's always like that one specific moment where you're like, why don't I do this? Or like, I could do this, like, you know, what's stopping me? So I love like hearing that. And I'm so excited that you know, it was Webster Hall that did it for you.
I know, and I didn't know, like, ironically, I ended up playing there like a few years later.
Another full circle moment.
It really was a full circle moment where I was like, you know, a few years ago, I was walking past you being like, wouldn't that be nice? And then it just happened. So
I love that. So you said that you moved to New York for college, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I guess like, you know, New York City is kind of like an inspiring city all on its own, no matter what profession you're in. Would you say that ever since you moved to New York and, you know, ever since you decided to kind of like pursue a career in music, would you say that your creative process or just like, you know, your kind of like yourself as an artist, like your ideas have changed like over time since living here?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things about New York is that it was so much more of a liberal society and liberal culture. Like versus, even though I did grow up in Australia, I did have that time in Singapore, which is, you know, definitely a bit more of a conservative culture. Mm-hmm. And I think also because I went to Barnard, which is the Women's College of Columbia University, which is a very empowering environment for women. And I think through a lot of those environments, a couple of things happened. First, I feel like it encouraged me to kind of go after what I wanted. Like I didn't let the fact that I knew as a woman of color, a lot of the odds would be against me. I'd have a lot of challenges, but it kind of really pushed me to keep asking that, like, why not me question. And then I think it just made me a lot more unafraid to, you know, voice myself and like get political on my platform and like stand for something, because I really like, I feel like I'm wasting my platform and wasting my resources if I don't like speak up on, you know, pro-choice and whatnot, and like political issues and like, you know, racial issues, especially as because they affect me. So, and I want to, so I think kind of New York kind of had more of that influence on me, and just, you know, empowered me to like use my creativity to have that voice. So, and then I think another big thing about New York is that it's just so easy to connect here with people, and it's not weird to like go to a party by yourself or to like connect with someone online and like meet up with them, you know, as long as they're not crazy.
Exactly. And if they are, you can go home, you can call an Uber and go home.
Right, exactly. Like as long as you're safe, like I've met so many people by literally just going out by myself to a party with following an artist that I really like, and just like meeting someone standing next to me or like meeting someone backstage or whatever. And I think New York just gives you that access to like check out multiple events in one night and like, you know, connect with people, collab. One big thing about New York is that everyone wants to collaborate, I feel. like every artist, big or small, is just ready to get into the studio, have a conversation, talk, like exchange ideas, whether or not it gets anywhere. So that was a really long answer, but I think those are the key ways that it's really, driven creativity.
And then, kind of since we're on the topic about how kind of New York just kind of like inspired, your voice and like wanting to speak your mind to the world. Did this have an influence in your Midnight Snack project that you've been kind of working on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, and it's so funny, like Midnight Snack was definitely one of the first projects I started, and where things were when I started and where things are now are so different. I think like when I first started, there was definitely very limited conversation around women in the scene, women trans artists in the scene. It wasn't really, it was just very overlooked. It was, it was kind of assumed if you're a woman, things were going to be hard, but there was no one really taking steps to actually mitigate that, rectify that, like have that conversation. And I think like being in New York, like being at Barnard with that very female empowered environment really pushed me to try to kind of go beyond just my day-to-day ambitions as an artist and really try to make a change in the industry. So Midnight Snack was a project to really kind of connect with female, trans, non-binary artists all around the world, not even just in America, like feature them, spotlight them, try to push people to actually play their tracks, like learn about them, book them. And since then, there's been so much conversation, like, there's that documentary that came out, Underplayed, which really, really takes a close look at how underbooked women are. And then I have to give a shout out to another organization, 23 by 23, which I'm not sure you're familiar with, but that's the reason why I just had a track on Club Sweat. So 23 by 23 aims to increase the number of releases by female non-binary trans artists by 23% for like every label. So they work with multiple labels. Yeah, they work with multiple labels, and they have these competitions, like remix competitions or like original compositions. And it's only people like me who could enter, and just like it's only people like me who can get those releases. So that's just a really great way for labels to really kind of push themselves to be more diverse, and then also have artists that follow those labels to be like playing tracks by female non-binary trans artists. So
Love that. That's amazing. And obviously, that's such a big topic going around, like especially now. And I love hearing, when artists are like pro anything like that. And I think what you're doing is amazing. So we just wanted to know a little bit more about your project and, like what you're looking forward to with that. And I'm sure, things are only going to go well from here. So that's super exciting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and then speaking of that, you recently did a remix for J.Worra's song "You," which is a great song, by the way. I've been like listening to it ever since it's been released. How would you describe your relationship with her and like how that whole process came to be?
Yeah, for sure. So I had met J.Worra, Jamie, a few times when she had played in New York. I really loved connecting with her. She's an amazing artist, amazing person. But this opportunity, funnily enough, came up through 23 by 23, which is the organization I just spoke of, where they held this kind of open remix contest where anyone who was a female non-binary trans producer could enter. So I just like submitted my remix. It was really funny because it was like 4 days before the deadline, and like I hadn't even done it or I hadn't finished it. I was like 70% there, and my husband was super encouraging. Actually, he was like, "You got 4 days, you can still do this."
Yeah.
I was like, "You know what? You're right. I'm gonna do it." I like got it in at the 11th hour, and then her manager contacted my manager and was like, "We love her remix." And originally they were only going to release one, like the number one contestant, but they loved the top three so much that they released all three on Club Sweat.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's kind of how all that came about. It wasn't even just J.Worra, it was like Club Sweat as management, as that entire team that have been, super supportive and just like really working as a great team to
It was
release.
like a combination of everybody just kind of like getting together and supporting each other. I love that.
Exactly. And like J.Worra put out like a Beatport Pride playlist. So the track came out on June 10th, which was,
perfect timing.
Pride. Exactly. So that was like additional support. She just actually played the track at Splash House as well. So she's just been supporting the track really well, along with a number of other artists. So it's just really great to like get that support.
Yeah, and then do you maybe plan on like collaborating with her in the near future, like any other specific artists that you'd want to maybe like collab with in the studio?
Oh my God, I would love that. Yeah, she would definitely be one of my top people to want to collaborate with. No plans right now, but yeah, there's so many amazing artists out there. Like LPGOB is another one that I would
Yeah,
love to collaborate with.
definitely.
Especially, yeah.
She's really big in New York. I feel like she's always here, and like, it's definitely a good way to connect, just being in the city.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she has like her Fem House live streams and parties. Like, that would be really great to collaborate with as well. I'm just really looking for a number of like amazing female artists to collaborate with right
Yeah.
now. So my plan is just to keep working on my music and then start sending it around, seeing if there's any interest in collaboration. But yeah, no set plans yet, but I'm
Well,
down.
I bet you'll have a ton of things to kind of announce to the world soon enough. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah, and then speaking of kind of like, New York-based connections and events and everything, you're playing Elro next month, which is
I
really
am.
exciting. What should fans and like anyone that's in attend, in the crowd kind of expect from your set at the King's Hall? Because you're opening, correct?
I am.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. And it's so
exciting.
funny because yeah, I last time I played the Mirage, I was actually, on the main stage opening for Alesso.
Okay.
And I've often told people, and don't get me wrong, I love that stage, but King's Hall has been like on my bucket list for a really long time. Like I love that room. It's so intimate and so
Yeah.
cool. Like I watched Jamie Jones there a number of times, a number of my favorite artists. What I really want is like an intimate club set, I think. Something that is intimate but kind of goes from like a sunset type vibe and then goes kind of like a lot deeper. I want to preview like one or two new tracks as well. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Like that space is just so good for like an intimate vibe. That's what I'm for.
Definitely. I honestly like against popular opinion, like I love the King's Hall over the Great Hall, because it is
Yeah.
more intimate and it's more of like that club
Yeah.
vibe. And I don't know if you
Exactly.
do this, I'm sure you do, but like if you're playing like while it's still daytime, there's like light that comes from the ceiling because there's like different
Yeah.
spaces. So it's like such a vibe with like the disco balls and then everything. So yeah, I'm super excited. I'll actually be there. So I'll definitely be there to
Oh,
support.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you should be on stage with me.
Okay, yeah, no, definitely. I'll be there. I never miss an Elro. Like that's one of my favorite parties. So I'll be there.
Yeah, I know that's great. And you have a great point with the light as well. So it really will be that kind of like
Yeah,
sunset vibe. Yeah.
I went to I forget what show it was, but it was like last summer and it was like a 5 p.m. set and you can like see the sun beaming like through the glass from the top and it was just like such
Mhm.
a vibe in there. So
Yeah, that's
yeah, I'm
cool.
super
Yeah.
excited for you.
Yeah.
And then aside from Elro, like what have been your most, in the past, most memorable New York City events or like which ones are you looking forward to that maybe haven't been announced yet?
Yeah, so I'm actually playing with Hotel Garuda at Elsewhere this Saturday,
Yeah,
which
I
I'm
did
really
see that.
excited
Yeah,
about.
that's so exciting.
Yeah, it's a 3-hour set, which is I'm really excited for that as well because I haven't played an extended set in a while. It's
Okay.
always kind of like a quick hour, then bye.
Yeah.
So, and I have a lot of friends that are just like down to come out, especially it's July 4th weekend.
Love that.
So, and it's the rooftop, which would be great unless it rains. We'll move inside. But so there's that, and then we have like Elro in a few weeks. And then in terms of, recent sets that I've really enjoyed, Alesso was such an amazing, incredible
I
experience. I was with
bet. Yeah,
Alesso
that
for
was
8th
opening
grade.
weekend, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was insane. I've never seen that place that packed, but also I've never seen like ravers so hardcore because it was
Oh yeah.
pouring rain. It was a thunderstorm, and everyone was just in ponchos.
That's kind of a vibe sometimes, though, especially after like, the
Yeah,
Mirage was closed for so long. So
exactly,
like everybody
exactly.
was just ready to party outside.
Yeah, I know. And people were just like so like ready to keep going. And then oh yeah, and the other party I forgot to mention, sorry, coming up is Wicked Paradise.
Ooh.
So that will be at House of Love the
Okay.
day before Elro. Yeah. So that should be really exciting and great as well because I've actually never played that venue. I've never been to that venue.
Yeah,
It's
it's
amazing.
very rare. Yeah. Oh my God, that's so exciting. Well, you have a jam-packed July coming up.
I know. And I also have like a wedding in Portland one weekend, so it's gonna be
Okay, a lot
crazy.
going on. So exciting. I'm so
Yeah.
happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So my last question for you is, you know, clearly have a very particular house sound that's very unique from the rest, at least in my opinion. If you had to describe your sound in one word, what would it be and why?
Ooh, that's such a tough one. One word. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Can I do like 3 words?
Yes, whatever, just however you'd like to describe it.
Yeah. I would say like groovy but unpredictable.
Okay, love
So
that.
it's like that's kind of just really what I'm going for. Like I want that. I want the soul of my music to be groovy, people to really move to it. But I love surprising people with like
Okay.
unexpected elements, like twists and turns. You know, it's kind of like a rom-com meets like a psychological thriller, I guess. Like
But in music terms.
but in music terms,
Yeah,
like
I love that. Well,
um,
yeah, super
yeah.
excited to catch your set, Elro.
Thank
I'll make
you.
sure not to
Thank
miss
you.
it. But okay, so with our interviews, we kind of do a little something to close it off in a fun way. We call it the speed round. So it's just kind of like super quick questions that you just kind of have to like answer on the spot. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Okay, Manhattan or Brooklyn?
Oh, Brooklyn.
Okay, that's a good answer. Joe's Pizza or Prince Street Pizza?
Oh, Joe's.
Okay. Brooklyn Garage in the summer or Avant Gardener in the winter?
Ooh, you know what? Avant-garde winter.
Okay.
I summer is my favorite season, but there's something about like a dark dance floor
Yeah.
that like nothing beats.
Underground warehouse or rooftop?
Underground warehouse.
Okay. Also good answer. Intimate club or festival?
Oh, intimate club.
Okay.
Yeah,
Live stream or live performance?
live performance.
Okay. This is kind of like, it's also maybe a personal question, but do you prefer the Australian accent or like the English accent? Like UK accent?
Definitely the Australian.
Okay. Okay. I figured that was what your answer was going to be.
No, it's okay. But the English accent is comical in some good ways. So
Yeah, and then this is kind of like a, would you rather type question. Would you rather lose your hearing or lose all your memories? That's a tough
whoa.
one. That's a tough
I
one.
would rather lose all my memories because if I lost all my hearing, then I could never listen to music again.
Okay, yeah, same, I agree that would be my answer too. And
Right. Yeah.
would you rather have universal respect or unlimited power?
Ooh, I think universal respect.
Okay,
Because
cool.
with
And then,
respect comes
yeah,
power.
exactly. And then the last one is, if you could only take one piece of equipment from your studio with you, what would you pick?
Oh, one piece of equipment. It would probably have to be my keyboard.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's like I can't compose
Oh yeah,
without my keyboard, unless
yeah.
you're counting my laptop, because then I won't be able to do anything. But
Well, no, aside from laptop.
aside from my laptop,
Yeah.
yeah, it would have to be my keyboard. Like without that, I cannot write anything.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, again, thanks so much for having us. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and like talking a little bit more about your music and your background and everything. And yeah, looking forward to catching your set next month.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to meeting you.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. Thank
All
you so
right.
much.
We'll be in touch.
Bye.
Bye.